Hey everyone, the PCI Express slots on motherboards can be a bit confusing. After all, if the board has two full-size x16 slots, you might think that you can plug your graphics card into either of these slots, but you'd be wrong. You might even be running your GPU at just a quarter of its intended speed, reducing your gaming performance right down. What am I talking about? Well, if you go into the detailed specs of most motherboards on their website, you'll see that they say things like PCI Express x16 slot, supports x4 speeds. Or some x16 slots might only run at x8 speeds if you plug an M2 NVMe drive into a specific slot. This can be bad, because some graphics cards actually need to run at their full bandwidth, or certainly at more than x4 speeds. So why might your GPU be running slower than the x16 speeds that you're expecting? And why do the PCI Express slots have so many confusing subclauses? Well, let me start off by discussing how to actually check the speed the GPU is running at. The best approach is to download GPU-Z, which is a really useful and free bit of software. You can download it directly from the Tech PowerUp site and either install it or run it as a standalone program. Once it's opened, look at the bus interface section over on the right. This box might seem a bit confusing, but it actually tells us two really important things. The number with a decimal point tells us what generation of PCI Express the card is running at. You'll hopefully see 3, 4, or 5.0 here, although some really old PCs might still have Gen 2 cards, I guess. The other number, the one with the X next to it, is how many lanes of PCI Express bandwidth your card is actually running at. If you plugged your GPU into a full-length PCI Express port on the motherboard, you would hope that the number here is x16. But if it's only showing x4 or x8, what gives? Is something wrong with your motherboard or your GPU? Well, probably not. There's three main reasons why your GPU might actually be running at x4 or x8 speeds instead of the full x16 speeds. And this all comes back to how motherboards are designed, and secondly, how PCI Express bandwidth is distributed, for want of a better word. Think of PCI Express lanes as roads, allowing cars or data to actually flow through them. The more lanes, the better. You'll often have 20 lanes or so that route directly to your CPU. This breaks down as 16 lanes for the graphics card and 4 lanes for primary NVMe SSD. But of course, us consumers actually need more PCI Express bandwidth than that, right? We might want a Wi-Fi or a 10 gig Ethernet card, as well as a second NVMe drive so that we can install Black Ops 6. I still can't believe how big games are actually getting nowadays. Anywho, how should all of this extra PCI Express bandwidth be delivered? Well, workstation-grade CPUs like Threadripper support 64 to 128 PCI Express lanes, which is loads. But sadly, consumer CPUs are stuck at 20 or so lanes. That means that the motherboard chipset is left to pick up the slack, and so all the cool stuff, so Wi-Fi cards and second NVMe drives, will often be handled through the chipset. That's why you see motherboard specs split up the different PCI Express lanes into the CPU and the chipset. Essentially, the chipset lanes are bottlenecked a bit because of how they actually connect to the CPU PCI Express link. Right, so technical overload aside, how does this relate to how our GPUs are running at the wrong speeds? Well, the first reason that this might be happening is that if a motherboard has multiple full-size x16 PCI Express slots, only the top one is actually routed directly to the CPU's PCI Express lanes. The rest tend to be routed via the chipset. As a result, if you have plugged your GPU into one of the bottom PCI Express slots, it's likely just to be running at x4 speeds, and you'll need to move it to the top slot as a result. The reason this happens is that even though the motherboard offers you a full-length PCI Express slot, only 4 of the pins are actually connected up electrically on the circuit board due to chipset PCI Express limitations. The second reason that this might actually be happening is that some motherboards will reduce the PCI Express bandwidth if you use certain M2 NVMe slots. For example, let's look at the Gigabit Z790 Aorus Pro X. This amazing motherboard has 3 full-length PCI Express slots and has 5 M2 connectors, which is great. However, if you actually look at the technical specs for this particular motherboard, you'll see this says that the main PCI Express Gen 5 slot shares bandwidth with the M2C CPU connector, and that slot operates at only x8 mode when a device is installed in that particular M2C slot. So in other words, if you put an M2 drive into this C slot, it will reduce your main graphics card's bandwidth down to x8 speeds. Of course, this is still Gen 5 we're talking about, so it's unlikely to actually harm your gaming performance much, but I'll circle back to this specific point in a minute. The third reason why your GPU might be running at x4 or x8 speeds is that you actually have BIOS Bifurcation turned on. I hate saying that word, I usually mispronounce it, so I'm glad I said it right. This setting allows your motherboard to split the main x16 PCI Express slot into 2 x8 lanes instead, or sometimes 4 x4 lanes. This can then allow for more PCI Express devices to be plugged in, effectively. While this setting is usually disabled by default, I would still dig around inside your BIOS for the bifurcation setting just to confirm that it is set to the x16 option. Okay, so that explains why a GPU might be running at less than x16 speeds. But now the big question, does it actually matter? Well, I think there was a time in the past when this would have mattered. PCI Express Gen 3 bandwidths weren't too high, for example. So if your GPU was accidentally running at x4 speeds, for example, you'd be limited to just 4 gigabits a second, which might actually be insufficient for some modern games. However, PCI Express Gen 4 and certainly Gen 5 are so fast that a Gen 4 card running at x8, for example, will probably make zero real-world difference to you compared to running it at x16. Yes, maybe if you did loads of benchmarking, you'd notice a really small performance difference in FPS, but in reality, it wouldn't be a major difference. Odin Hardware's done some really great roundup videos showing that with PCI Express Gen 3, you do see some performance drop off at x4 speeds, but then there's no major difference between x8 and x16 speeds. Remember, that's at Gen 3, when bandwidth was a bit lower across the board. When you move up to Gen 4, there's much less of a difference to a GPU running in an x4 slot. Yes, there is still a bit of an FPS drop-off, but it's not super substantial. And the x8 frame rates are actually very similar to the x16 ones. So as you can see, you're not going to have any major issues if your GPU is somehow running at x8 speeds due to where you installed your M2 drive, for example. And it's good to know this, that your actual gaming performance won't be massively crippled if your GPU is stuck at x4 speeds. But clearly, this isn't an ideal configuration, and that's why most motherboard makers in the manual actually recommend that you try to put your primary GPU into the top PCI Express slot. So if you've gone out and you've already purchased your motherboard and you're now worried after watching this video that maybe your new build, your shiny new build, is going to run super slow and your gaming performance will be crippled, please don't worry too much. As you can see from this video, in many cases, even if your graphics card is running x8 or even x4 speeds in some cases, it's not going to make a massive real-world difference to your gaming performance. It would matter if you've got some 10-year-old build and your graphics card has been running at x4 the entire time, but then you're probably used to having slightly laggy gaming performance, especially with today's overblown, bloated computer games, I guess. But anyway, the reason, before I wrap up this video, I just wanted to say thank you to each and every one of my subscribers. This channel, Tech Override, recently has crossed 1,000 subscribers, which I'm really grateful for, so thank you for all of your support. It's really awesome to me that people are watching my videos and getting benefit from them and liking and commenting and subscribing. Really cool to me, so thank you, each and every one of you, for your support. I'm really enjoying the content I'm producing. We've got some really great content coming up, including my home lab server storage NAS type system. I need to figure out what I'm going to call it, really. That's going to be pretty cool, and I got a series of videos coming off there. So I'm really looking forward to bringing you some really cool videos, and thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click the thumbs up button and please subscribe to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.